Hey, how's it going, everyone, and welcome back to the FilmSpeak channel. I'm, of course, your host, Griffin Schiller, and here at the FilmSpeak channel, we're massive James Bond fans, and so, of course, anytime there's a new piece of Bond news or whatever, we're gonna sit and we're gonna dissect it and we're gonna talk about it. But we also like to say here at FilmSpeak that the conversation continues after the credits, or sometimes before the credits, however you put it. The point is, we'd love to have you be a part of that conversation, and so if you're digging anything that we're doing here on the channel, if this is your first time checking out one of our videos, hopefully you like it, and hopefully you decide to subscribe for more insight, analysis, and interviews behind your favorite movies. And so usually on these little Bond editorial type videos, we like to call them Bond chats. We just pick a couple of topics and we dissect them and we discuss them and we relish in them and all that good stuff. If you aren't familiar with my co-host on these shows, he is my co-host on the Words Are Not Enough podcast, which is a podcast that we haven't done in probably a year, but it's coming back. It's coming back. Famous last words of every podcaster. But anyways, you know him, you love him, Mr. Brody Saravelli. Oh, crap, I think I removed him. No, there you are. There you are.
Yeah, I'm very much alive.
How are you doing?
I'm good. Yeah, it's funny. Yeah, I can't remember the last time we did an episode. It would have been maybe when the song dropped. Did we do an episode for that?
No, so we did one. Oh, yeah, you didn't do the Tom Hardy one with me. Yeah, it might have been. No. We did one with the trailer. When they dropped the new trailer, we talked about the new trailer.
We might
have,
yeah. Right before the COVID delay and all that.
No, like the new trailer, man. I'm talking like the.
Oh, I was talking about Twain, but yeah.
Oh yeah, Twain. I don't think we haven't done a Twain episode in a very long time. We will come back eventually. One of these days, we will return
Bond always retires.
Yeah,
we're just constantly retiring, coming back. It's actually a very elaborate homage to that.
At least there's here's the thing. At least there's a way we can tie it into the context of Bond in the larger sense and whatnot.
Craig is the gift that keeps giving.
He really is. He really is. But anyways, so the No Time to Die marketing push is really in full swing right now. And so with it, they've launched a couple of things that we want to talk about here. First of all, they've launched a new No Time to Die podcast, which is absolutely brilliant. I think this is an incredible move on their part, and after listening to the first episode, I'm very, very impressed. It's the kind of like behind the scenes look at stuff that has really been missing from physical media or even like digital media. There's no like behind the scenes featurettes and stuff anymore, and the Bond franchise has a rich history of that stuff. So I'm glad that we have this podcast where we can hear from like Barbara Broccoli, Michael G. Wilson, Daniel Craig, Cary Fukunaga, Purvis and Wade, all these people talking about their experience not only in this film but just in Bond in a larger context. And so we've got the podcast, which is coming out weekly, which will kind of recap on these Bond chat shows a little bit. We've got the official music video for Billie Eilish's No Time to Die, which is very exciting because we get some new footage in there. And we get our first little taste at Hans Zimmer's James Bond score. Very exciting stuff. We got a lot to dive into, but let's start with the Billie Eilish music video for No Time to Die. Brody, what are sort of your overall thoughts on the music video?
I was not expecting them to incorporate as much footage, or at least as much new footage as they did, because I sort of thought I was thinking back to the Sam Smith music video where they did sort of do a similar thing where they sort of insert them into a scene or whatever. Although the Sam Smith one was weirdly inserted into Skyfall kind of scene. I just remember him in front of all the caskets, and I was like, "That's not this movie, man."
Yeah,
right. That was like the main promotional image for that.
Yeah, it was so weird. It was just like, wait, is this Skyfall or Spectre? I'm a little confused here.
Definitely trying to make you think of Skyfall, and then we know why now. But
right.
But this I was surprised that there was this much new footage, because I really liked that little teaser that they dropped when they first dropped the song, where it had sort of the montage of Bond and Madeline's romance, and they kind of go to that again, but now Billie Eilish is hiding in the shadows of every scene. It was cool. I really dug the just the whole way it sort of tied together. I think I wasn't expecting it to sort of create a narrative with the visuals, but it did, and I'm really glad it did. Like,
Yeah, that was the thing that really struck me was the powerful visuals with that sort of like played into the relationship of Bond and Madeline. And I think what it did was it sort of painted the relationship in a way that we haven't seen before, and it contextualized like some of the lyrics in the song, I think, to the point where now
some of the stuff that we were hypothesizing, like I
yeah,
remember
yeah,
when the first song, like, not to interrupt you, but like when the song first dropped, I remember we were saying, oh, is this like a duet, quote unquote, right? Is it one verse, is it going to be Bond and from Bond's perspective, and there's another verse from Madeline's perspective? And the video kind of almost confirms that, because there are certain lines where it will assume Bond's position or perspective, and then other lines where it will assume Madeline's perspective with, like, shots of Madeline reacting or whatnot. So
yeah. And I have it pulled up here. I'm going to kind of like skip through some stuff a little bit. Obviously, yeah, I think the big stuff, I think I mean, I definitely agree with you. Like this scene right here specifically, where she's like burning the thing and then she's letting it go, stuff like that. I feel like that was really, that was interesting, because obviously it's like showing that she's not quite done, or the past isn't quite finished with her. I think Bond even has like a freaking line in the in the trailer where it's like the past isn't finished with us yet, or something like that. But go ahead.
I was gonna say, this is not analytical at all, but I just thought it was funny that, like, the first one, it fades in and it's just Billie Eilish singing while the Bond and Madeline are making out in the corner.
Yeah.
That was a very funny, not intentional, but it was just funny.
You're telling me that you didn't. You're telling me that you didn't enjoy this? Is that? It's just. It was interesting.
To the contrary, I enjoyed it a lot, but just not for the reasons I think were intended. It's a very funny image. I just like. It's almost like she's around the corner and she's singing soulfully while they're just like about to have sex next door.
Oh, it's great. It's absolutely beautiful. No, I definitely know what you're saying. I think the few things I'm going to try and find the shots here that stuck out to me, other than her obviously like burning the thing.
Yeah.
And
I remember we saw them shooting that. I remember them, like, because they built that set of the balcony in Matera.
Right.
So they could physically have, which was so cool. Instead of like just green screening it, they built it there. And now you can see why, because they have like all these really elaborate camera angles of her, like, on
there's so the pre-title sequence is supposedly, okay, this is the part that I wanted to showcase right here, but the pre-title sequence is supposedly like 20 minutes long. Like, this is a very lengthy pre-title sequence, and so you have to, and so obviously all of these sequences with them in a relationship, with their the ups and downs of it and everything, and like sort of like the, I guess, kind of reminiscent to the like sequence that Bond had with Vesper towards the end of Casino Royale.
It's almost like, it feels like it's going to be structured as the inverse of Casino Royale, where like
right,
instead of the last 20 minutes being like romance stuff capped off by an action scene, this is going to be romance stuff capped off by an action sequence at the beginning, and then the rest of the movie after that, which is kind of cool. They're constantly talking about like the bookend. Like, this is the bookend of the Craig era.
Right.
That's a very, just structurally, a very nice way to bookend it.
Well, and I think that helps. That also helps. At least for me, it shows me why Bond reacts the way that he does. Like, first of all, this entire song is definitely like Bond being the scorned lover, saying like, oh, you fucked me over again. I've already felt like this before. There was like a couple of shots in there. I'm not going to go back to them because I'm already at a place where I wanted to show, but there were a couple of shots in there where he's like standing somewhere contemplating something, and it cuts to like him and Madeline in the Aston, like in love, and then it cuts back to him and he's sort of like reflecting on like probably his time with Vesper and stuff like that, and how this parallels that. And so I don't know, I think that's going to make for an interesting hurdle that he's going to have to overcome throughout the entirety of the film. I mean, being able to trust someone again. But going back to the shot that I wanted to focus on that I thought was really interesting, was this right here with Madeline looking like sad out the window, and then seeing Bond in tattered, and then her going off of the train and everything. So this is what I am speculating is going to happen with that. I have a feeling that obviously that takes place after. Now, granted, that could have just been editing magic. That could have been her looking at something differently. But it did look like she was on a train, and it looked like Bond was on the other side of that train. And so to me, it looked like after everything that goes down in Matera goes down, she boards a train to get out of here because Bond's like, okay, we got to get out of here. This is like, we just got to go into hiding. And then he just leaves her.
Yeah.
And
Exactly
that's
I'm getting,
basically, that's how they split up. And then it goes into the title track, I think.
So it's going to be like, that's exactly what I'm thinking. I'm thinking, so their breakup will be less of like a mutual parting of ways, or even just like a big blowout fight. It seems like they're going to have the big blowout fight. And
do you think they're going to have a big blowout fight, though?
I think they're going to have. I think there's going to be, because we see in that first trailer where he's like, everybody has their secrets, we just didn't get to you. I think they're going to be arguing, and I think the emotional place we leave them will be, Madeline is like, there's a trust issue between the two of them. They're fighting, but Madeline's sort of going about like, this is a relationship, we're going to figure this out or whatever, and so they go, like, they have to get out of there because of whatever's chasing them. They go to the train station. She gets on the train, and Bond just lets her leave.
Because he doesn't want to deal with that anymore. You know, like he's already been down that road, and it's like this is the signal basically telling him that like maybe you can't actually have this life.
Yeah, and so but when they like sort of reconnect, I think the one of the big conflicts will be, Bond will want nothing to do with it. He's kind of like, we broke up, I ghosted you, essentially.
Yeah. Well, it's also the fact that he left it unresolved, I think, is going to be the case.
And she's going to be mad that more so, because she's a psychologist and all that. She's going to be mad that, like, why didn't you just talk to me? Why did you literally abandon me? Like, this is psychotic. Why would you do that? So she'll be pissed about that. Like you know, look at her issues, but
I don't know. I feel like she might. I feel like she won't be as mad as you think that she'll be. Like, something tells me that she's going to be a little more understanding, because she feels that she did betray him in a way. At least some of the shots that I get from her, obviously with Rami Malek, there was that featurette that was released of Rami Malek basically talking about Safin and stuff like that. And there was a sequence where she was sitting opposite him, holding the mask in the case. So there's obviously a little mystery there that I'm not entirely sure what's going on with that, but
yeah, no, I agree. I think I don't think Madeline's. I think there will be frustration from her, and I think that frustration will be tempered by the fact that I think she's gonna feel guilty. Like, so she's gonna be pissed off that Bond did this, and that's gonna be a strain on them resolving the issue. But yeah, I think Bond is going to be absolutely the aggressor. He's going to be completely unwilling to even broach the issue, whereas she's going to be sort of like, I'm mad that you did this, but look, I can't risk being too aggressive about this because I know what I did, or what I know, whatever. And therefore I can't risk, you know, I don't want to be aggressive about that because, you know, I admit fault. So I think what's interesting is that sort of sets up Madeline to be more sort of emotionally, like, instead of it just being like two people coming back together, it's going to be more so Madeline kind of being more mature and more understanding of the situation than Bond. Bond just sort of regressing back to his old ways, and Madeline more just sort of not knowing what to do about that. Rather than the two of them sort of regressing, which I think my initial thought was going to be the two of them were going to regress to a point where none of them wanted to talk about the thing that was causing the issue in the relationship. But it seems like there's going to be more of an attempt by Madeline to sort of resolve that.
Right. Well, even going back to the lyrics, I feel like it does feel like both of them lyrically are going to regress. But I feel like because of how like the music video paired it with like certain images and like showing the different ways in which they're handling the situation, I don't know. Like, again, the lyrics sort of take on new life. You know what I'm saying? Like, it just I totally agree with you with saying like Madeline is definitely going to be the more mature one in this situation here. And Bond is ultimately going to have to get over this hump that he's never been able to get over throughout the entirety of his 5 film run here. So But there is something interesting. So, but going back to the music video at hand, this stuff right here I thought was really interesting. They're getting shot at, and then Madeline is like freaking out, and like he looks at her like that, and it's, I don't know, that to me that's such like an interesting character moment and such an intimate like thing, because it's like she has obviously seen this stuff before. She's obviously been in the thick of the action, but it's still like affecting her, and like him looking over like that, I think causes him to realize that this is a completely different situation than what we've seen before. You know, I don't know. Did that strike you as like just an interesting sort of sequence of shots there?
Yeah, absolutely. Because I think, I mean, and this is a testament to Daniel Craig as an actor, because we don't really know the context of this yet. But you do get so much of like, yeah, because like she almost clings on to him. It seems like they've been in a bit of a tense spot, because we've seen moments.
Right, I think it's definitely after he's like it was like we all have our like he's being really snarky and passive.
Exactly, and then she sort of clings to him. There's that kind of like gut reaction to hide with him, I guess, for him to be the protector. And
right.
I think in that moment he looks, and it's almost one, he's still pissed off, and he's kind of like, it's a little bit like, you know, he's a little bit like, why are you reacting like this? This is
it's like you did this to me, right? And
the second part of it is it's almost the opposite of that, where you call back to Inspector when he's like, I don't have to teach you anything, and he sort of has like this false sense of her ability to cope with his lifestyle and the situations that come with that lifestyle. And in that moment, it's almost like, no, you really aren't. This isn't going to work. Like, first of all, I'm pissed at you. Second of all, you are not ready for what my lifestyle entails at all.
Yeah.
And I think it was a little bit of like it all at once, just sort of.
It's sort of like reinforcing his like initial hesitation, right?
Yeah, exactly. Like it's part of that regression where he's like, I made a huge mistake here. This was a massive miscalculation.
Yeah.
It's almost like the moment he realizes, this I have to leave you at the station. Like
well, and you know, part of me wonders if it's like, if any of it is for her own good. You know, if there's a part of him that's like doing it because he like if it starts out like where he's like mad at first, and then it sort of turns into, well, I think that maybe this would be best for both of us, because clearly you're in a position here where like this is just, I don't want to put you in danger anymore, but also like you're putting my life in danger by being with you, so it's like maybe we just go handle this our separate ways, you know?
That's pretty much exactly what my read on that is. Like, yeah, he's feeling protective, but also kind of annoyed that the situation is even happening and that she's reacting the way she is, considering her involvement in it. So there's a lot of stuff going on there. You're right. That is a really interesting, like, just reaction.
Yeah. So there's another part here that I want to highlight, because I think the lyrics are interesting, because I think many people, when we first heard the song, when they heard this part of it, we were assuming like, oh, this is going to mean, and it very well could be, the line "faces from my past return." We assumed that was through Bond's point of view, basically saying like, this entire situation is reminding me of what happened with Vesper. Mm-hmm. But I think when the video here contextualizes it with these images of Safin, I think that line definitely speaks more to Madeline. In her obviously opening the box, the reaction, him coming into the room there. My question to you, though, is, do you think that this happens before or after the Matera sort of stuff? Because she looks like she's in a completely different environment. Like, does Safin go to her as a warning first, and then people start converging on her, like giving her like a chance to escape? Or is it a case of like, now that he's, you know, resurfaced again, he's going to go confront her person to person?
I think this is after. Yeah, I honestly think the first 20 minutes of the movie, we're not going to leave Bond's perspective. Okay. I feel like, at least for the sake of mystery, I think we're going to see whatever betrayal, whatever revelation he comes to from his perspective. I think we're going to see their like romance together, like sort of that whole sequence lead into the argument and the chase, and then the parting of ways, and then that's the end of the sequence. I don't know, that's just a hunch, but I feel like it would be giving away too much information so early on for them to assume her perspective when there's so much mystery surrounding what she knows and what she's involved in and whatever else. So,
yeah, that's a good
I
point.
also feel like Safin, if you establish Safin as like having returned at that point in the story, we like 5 years essentially passes between that opening prologue and presumably, right? Like some time passes. I don't know. I feel like it feels like way too early to have Safin like I'm back and then spend 5 years not really doing anything until he comes like, hey, now my plan's ready. Like,
well, yeah, that's true. I wasn't accounting for the jump in time. Here's the other theory about this. Do we think that the people attacking them at the beginning are in fact Safin's henchmen and that he spends 5 years trying to find her?
I don't think necessarily. I think maybe it could be Spectre. It could be like any number of things. I think that would, because we don't really know the extent to which Safin and Spectre are entangled in some way.
Yeah, right.
And what the nature of their relationship is, but yeah, man, that's hard to say because then isn't what's his face Primo? He's in that sequence. And is he Safin?
Oh, is he? Yeah. Okay.
Or is he an independent agent?
I mean, that's the thing. I mean, there's these the thing that
we don't
you
really
and
know what their relationship is either. Yeah.
Right. The thing that you and I keep going back to is the fact that like there is this subplot with Billy Magnuson as the CIA agent.
What the fuck is going on there?
What is going on with him? You know, right? Like, is he working for Safin? Is he more of a Spectre agent? Like, it's a little that part is a little unclear to me, and so maybe this whole Safin Madeline thing doesn't really start to take flight until after the time has passed. But I don't know. It is interesting. I want to cut to this next part in the music video that I thought was so interesting, just from a just recontextualizing a scene a little bit more. So ignore the shot of Blofeld right here. But
how can I?
This right there, that shot where he flips and he turns over and she's walking out of the lair, and his reaction completely changes how we interpret that scene.
Yeah,
that's
huge.
It's very huge, and I want to get your take on it. So, like, what do you think is going on there? I mean, obviously, this is after we've been introduced to Safin.
Yeah,
obviously
they've been introduced, like in terms of like reintroduced.
Right.
Yeah, I don't even know where to begin with that, but yeah, it definitely had like kind of a and there's not saying this is what the context in the movie is, obviously, but it definitely had like a catch your lover with her lover kind of vibe to it. It's kind of like that kind of like disbelief and betrayal, and the instant like shame on her face. And
yeah.
Whether or not it's like because there's something going on, or because she knows it looks like there's something going on. Yeah, that could be magic, like editing magic, and could be completely too.
Well, I don't know how much of editing magic it really is, because I mean, look at this. Like they're clearly in his
shit!
lair.
I forgot about that shot.
Yeah, right. Yeah. No, exactly. Like they clearly make a point to also, who is this? Who is that there on the ground? Huh? There's a dead body there. Obviously, he probably cleared the room.
Hold on, I'm gonna pull that up now because I can't see it too big on that screen there. Oh
yeah, sorry. Yeah, that the
no, you're fine.
Let me see if I can zoom in a little bit more. Do you see the body right there?
Yeah, I guess it looks like one of the guys who, I don't know, like one of his men working down in the facility, whatever he has down there.
That would be my guess. It's just I don't know. When he clears the room, obviously we assume that Safin escapes, and then she just kind of stumbles out. Yeah. Again, is Safin using her? Like, I don't. Is this, there's a clone theory going around here? Is this a clone of Madeline? I don't actually think it is, but there is
a clone for his boudoir.
Yeah, right. I don't know. Again, it kind of the fact that she's here, in this area with him, I don't know. That leads me to I don't know, the whole Phantom of the Opera sort of like thing going on with the masks and Safin and his connection to Madeline. That to me, it just all of it is with her there in this location, especially. It's making a little more sense to me. Also,
or honestly, I'm like looking at the sequence and like maybe the editing trick here is that it looks like he's moving and then startled by her when perhaps the correct sequence will be he's making a sudden move to shoot the guy, and then that's the shot after he's already cleared the room. Maybe she's been held.
That would make sense, right? Yeah, she is being held hostage, and
yeah. So he's like sort of his sudden jerking motion is to clear the room, and then that shot is after the room has been cleared, and he's just sort of left not knowing whether or not to trust her. And lower his gun, and then the shot of his face is more kind of like recognition that they're in a really bad situation, and
that they're sort of like that they made it through. I don't know. There's like
kind of like maybe something that was revealed in the conversation prior to that action.
Well, I guess
now,
that's true.
Now that we've cleared the bad guys, what the fuck is going on? Like,
yeah. No, that's a good point. That. Again, that going back to the editing thing, that could be a situation where it's like it's not necessarily him after that entire clear the room thing happened. That could just be his reaction to seeing Safin pulling Madeline out,
Could be,
and then the stuff that we see beforehand is what kind of happens after it. And I don't know, there's a lot of stuff there, but it is interesting that they're. I don't know. It is just kind of cool to see that they're in the same place at the same time, which makes me think that this entire sequence is going to be both of them teaming up together to escape or take down Safin, and then Numi is going to be sort of like their air support kind of thing. She's going to be the one that sort of like helps them out while they're like clearing that area. But I guess the other thing is that we also know that Numi is. She does infiltrate the facility with Bond, right? Like we've seen that so who knows where the hell she is right now?
Yeah, I know. Honestly, I mean, like, and we go back to what we talked about last time with the sequence of events. Like, does this presumably is prior to the big forest chase? Maybe
I think it is. I'm starting to think it is. Yeah.
Is Bond and Madeline when they escape? Are they because we think we see the blonde woman in the car during the chase? So like are they together in that sequence? Like what's going? Yeah, it is interesting. Just it's first of all, it's interesting how little we know because it's kind of cool. We can theorize all day, but it is just like we know absolutely nothing. It's so nice, but. What's interesting is that there is so much of a focus on their relationship. When one of the major criticisms of Spectre is that there was very little development for their relationship. Right. So, I mean, if anyone's a critic, I don't want to hear anyone bitching about bringing Leia Sado back because it seems like they've definitely got a plan to utilize her better this time around. So it's like
I think that they their relationship was more believable in this music video than it was in the entirety of Spectre. And I'm not exaggerating there. Like it like I think
dimension to it. Yeah.
Well, that's the thing. It's like if Spectre was a one-off and that was what it is, it's a little shallow. But I'm really impressed with how they have taken the shallow romance of Spectre and they said, no, there's a reason for this.
Right, exactly. And that's like the most interesting part about it is that they basically took the premise that they rushed into this weird quick relationship, but that's the point, and now we're going to explore what that means for the two of them. So I kind of resent this idea that's like, well, why are they building her up to be the love of his life? And it's like, well, the point was that they fell in love way too quickly and made a stupid decision and didn't really know each other before they
had a child.
Maybe.
I'm telling you, man, I think it's the case. Anyways, the last thing I kind of wanted to bring up in regards to the music video is this little sequence right here. No, not Billie Eilish, although I love the noir lighting. It's great.
Yeah.
No, this sequence right here with them in the lair.
Yeah.
Oh, it's so good. It is first of all, I think that also is interesting because is that part of the same sequence that we just saw? Because she's dressed in the same thing. He is missing the sweater. But
he's
it looks
the overalls.
Yeah. Are they on like a a the ship or something
Maybe
out in the ocean? Like, because we always suspected that would be something that happens in the middle of the film, but I don't actually know.
Yeah, because this could be a completely different thing. Because he's wearing the overalls, like the suspenders.
Yeah.
And they're on the wherever this is. But yeah, I hadn't really thought about the tanker being like a location, but that starts to make more sense because there is that shot of him wearing the suspenders from the trailer where, like, when he gets blown up by the grenade or whatever it is.
Yeah.
That in the very tight quarters, that might not. I always just assumed that was the layer, but it might actually be the ship, which is kind of cool. And she looks kind of wet too, so.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Yeah, I mean, there's definitely
all of Safin's like little like glowing rods are in water.
Right. Oh, okay. Yeah, actually, maybe that is one of the glowing rods. No, it's not glowing rod. I don't know what the hell is going on here, but it is interesting that I do like the, I don't know, just like sort of the intimate moments that they share throughout the course of this music video, and then obviously what's going to be throughout the course of the film. So, I don't know. From a music video perspective, it's great. I have to admit that I think that it did remind me a little bit of the Mike Wazowski meme where he's sitting on the stool and he's like doing this, and it's like he's got the faded in like picture of himself on the side. The way that it was sort of like integrated between like Billy and the footage did remind me of that. Yeah. But as a whole, I thought it told a really nice narrative that is going to be pivotal to the film. And listening to the lyrics, and again talking about like when you and I had talked separately about this, the song being more of a duet than just a solely from Bond's perspective. I think this music video definitely doubles down on the fact that this is going to be like it's Bond's movie for sure, but Madeline is a major part of this film, and it's going to be their journey to becoming whole again. I would have to imagine.
And as a breakup song, this is a perfect breakup song.
Oh, it's great. Yeah.
Video, because you've got like the you got the romancy stuff, you got all the angry stuff, and just like we spoke about this being a breakup song, and they do show like a couple of snippets of action, which honestly I feel like, if I had to have one criticism, I didn't think we needed in there, but obviously this is a promotion for the movie, so you've got to throw some of that stuff in there. I get it. But this song was always struck me as like this is about the romance. This is about the personal story. The rest of the plot be damned. And this video, for the most part, reflects that it is focused on that specifically, and other elements of the marketing can pick up the slack when it comes to the action and the actual intrigue plot. That's
for sure. Here's the question that's on everyone's mind: is Billie Eilish going to win the Oscar for Best Original Song?
What else would win at this point?
Well, listen, there's stuff from Soul that we haven't heard yet. There's stuff from the song at the end of the Trial of Chicago 7. There's I don't know. There's a lot, but I don't know. Do you think that she's in a good position to probably take it home?
I think so. Yeah, I just like the precedent, as well as the fact that I don't know. I just think it's a good song. So
when you take into account that Sam Smith won for Writings on the Wall, then I think
I don't even know what he was competing against, but there had to be something better there. So like I wouldn't say it's a sure thing, but I would say they tend to be pretty. The Academy tends to have a preference for these songs, so and the fact that it is a good one, that helps, and that she's like a big artist right now, so that helps with
it would be crazy. I think she would make history too, because of her Grammy wins and like everything. I don't know. It'd be really interesting. I'd love to see it. But anyways, guys, let us know your thoughts and opinions on the No Time to Die official music video down in the comment section below. Does the new footage like put things into new perspective for you? Do you have more theories now, given the way that we've seen footage cut here? Do you think most of it is just editing magic, or do you think there's actually some truth to what's going on here? I don't know. We want to hear all your thoughts and opinions down in the comment section below. Sticking on music, though, we got to move on and talk about Daddy Hans Zimmer.
Now this is what I want to talk about.
This is. We have been so excited to see what and listen to hear what Hans Zimmer was going to come up with for No Time to Die, because I think when most people think of Hans Zimmer, they think of more of his electronic driven stuff like Blade Runner, Dunkirk, the dark.
Most like Nolan stuff.
Yeah, his Nolan works is obviously a little bit more percussive and experimental.
Yeah.
This, when Hans Zimmer was asked to do the score for No Time to Die, I mean, first of all, the year prior, I had talked to him, and he is a massive John Barry fan. And I think that actually comes out a lot in his work more often than people would care to admit. The experimentation for sure, and the abrasiveness of it.
And then just like, I mean, I think John Barry's famous for like that repetition, and I think Hans Zimmer definitely has a lot of that. Like he will keep he'll build a whole song around just a repeating sort of sound, which is I think is very Barry-esque. So.
Yeah, for sure. And so make no mistake, he's one of the greatest composers of all time, and he's one of the greatest working today. And so the fact that he's doing the score for Daniel Craig's fifth and final Bond film is very exciting. And he didn't disappoint. So there were a few pieces of music that we got here. There was some music in the first episode of the podcast, of the No Time to Die podcast, and then there was also I don't know if they released it or if it leaked or something, but the gun barrel track released, and it was amazing. It was, and I think you put it best, Brody. You said it kind of reminded you of David Arnold, but there was a little more like oomph to it. And then the way it ends with the strings kind of hanging in this like dangling, I don't know, like foreboding sort of sense. It was just really, really well done. But I don't know, just thoughts on Zimmer's work that we've heard so far.
So good. I love that now I guess Thomas Newman's impact has been felt, that we get like that little preamble now over the logos where it's like that was like very much, I was like, wait a minute, that sounds a lot like Spectre. And then
the beginning of it does,
and then but he hits, and it is there's just like the way his instrumentation of it just it felt like very, very David Arnold. But that guitar, holy shit,
that's the thing, dude. He's
so sharp and so like it just draws all your attention. It's beautiful, and then with the strings sort of like you can almost imagine it sort of like fading out to like Saffin or something like that.
Or something. You're right. The flashback in Norway, or like I don't know what's happening. It sounds very foreboding, so I would have to imagine that's the case and not Lovers in Paradise.
Yeah, right, exactly. But I absolutely, and I think. Man, I just love. We were talking about this, and we'll talk about this when we get to. I guess we could segue into that now with the.
We could just sort of talk about it in tandem, because they did incorporate the music into the podcast.
Yes, some of the music from the podcast. I loved his rendition of the Bond theme. That was the one thing I was gushing about the second I heard it. It was because we were talking about this separately, but just the fact that that he's giving us a new rendition, because I mean, like, God, I love that Casino Royale one. It is excellent, very good. But it's been 10 years, and I'm sick of hearing it everywhere.
I know.
Like it plays over all the ads. It plays over the little videos they put up on like the Twitter page and the Facebook page or whatever. It just plays everywhere. It played it in Skyfall. They played it at the end of Spectre. You
just want to hear something new.
Just want to hear something new, because we were talking about this right before we started recording. Just like back in the day, original like 1960s run, you get like sort of different variations of the theme with every movie. So like it either adopts the sound of the location, like with Live Twice, or he adds a new sort of something to it, like in Thunderball, or for Rush with Love with the bongos and kind of Istanbul kind of, I don't know.
He tailored it to the films, which I think is like important, and it helps distinguish. It keeps things fresh, right? Like that was Barry's thing. He always wanted to keep things fresh, and he always wanted to innovate, but still keep things sounding somewhat familiar.
Yeah,
and I think that
synthy sounding one.
And
then I think uh, starting with like basically all his more films because he was doing it on and off.
Right.
I think his rendition of the Bond theme just kind of became like it's just I'm gonna do that very traditional. It's all strings and all brass. There's no guitar. It's just the complete orchestra one.
Mm-hmm.
And then that one just kind of stuck around for a while, other than when other composers would come on, and then David Arnold sort of the similar thing where he sort of just he every couple of films he would sort of do something a little different with it, but
Mm-hmm.
Casino Royale onwards, that one is just that one Bond James
Yeah.
Bond track is just the Bond theme now, and I don't know, yeah, just something different, just adding a bit more flavor to it because there are other you can play the same piece of music 1,000 different ways, and it's just nice to hear them hear Hans Zimmer's version of it because
Yeah.
and it's so I don't know that the refreshingness is my main takeaway, but it is also just an interesting piece of music. I loved that horn rip at the very start, like as it like trails into,
Yeah.
and then it goes down, 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 down. Oh, I love that. I think Hans is just having a lot of fun. With
He's having a lot of fun. Yeah.
He's just in there saying like, "Can you make that like really sharp? Can you make that wail for me?"
Yeah.
Yeah, what a man.
No, I agree. I think it's great to see that he's having fun with it. He's also getting to use instruments that he doesn't get to use a whole lot. Like he is bringing in that John Barry big band feel for this for sure. Listen, he'll probably incorporate the electronic elements that he's known for, but I think he's going to relish just in being able to use brass like we haven't necessarily seen from him before. I mean, he used it in Inception to an extent, but it feels different from what we're hearing it there.
Yeah, this is more of a lush kind of like warm sound, whereas Inception's a little more like icy cold, metallic.
Right, for sure. And then there was also there was a moment in there that you said reminded you of Moonraker, this sequence or a part in Moonraker or something.
Yeah, I just because so like mentioning the John Barry variations of the theme, there is that one that he sort of does throughout the Moore films that is kind of like it's a little more jaunty, I guess. And it plays especially over like the free fall sequence in Moonraker and a couple other times. Something about because like, you always hear the cymbals underneath the Bond melody. It's always there. But something about like the rhythm of it and the timing, I don't know, it just reminded me of because you really hear them in that free fall track. It's just like a and
really driving.
And it for some reason when I specifically on the track that plays on the podcast, I heard that and I was like, that sounds like Moonraker to me. And I mean, John Barry, Hans Zimmer is such a John Barry fan that I almost don't want to believe it's a coincidence. It's almost like
well, we know he's very. I mean, he's made it very clear, and I think his music has also made it very clear that he's a massive fan, and so he's definitely going to be taking a page out of that book to create his own thing. But it's great to hear. But anyways, segueing into the podcast as a whole. I mean, first of all, you and I, as we said at the top, you and I have been really supportive of this idea because I think it's a great way. Like podcasts are so accessible to people these days, and it is a very popular form of media consumption, especially with this age of people being on the go and just wanting to flip something on without having to sit down and watch it. Yeah. Honest to God, this might be the future of behind the scenes content. Now, I know like other shows have done stuff like this before, like HBO for all of those shows, they have podcasts tailored to them where they talk about the episode at hand. They have like some of the creators on, like I know Watchmen had one. I think Westworld had one, and Lovecraft Country has one, and stuff like that. And I like that that's becoming more of a thing for shows to have. It sucks for fucking creators like us, but it is. Listen, they have the access, so might as well do it. And I think the first thing that struck me is like, yeah, okay, the episode they're not really saying anything new. They're just sort of like talking about Bond's legacy and why the characters remain relevant for so long, and why Craig has enjoyed playing him for so long, and so on and so forth. But it is, I don't know, it is interesting to just hear it from the horse's mouth. You're like we get to hear them talk about it, and this is a great entry point into what I assume will be more specific episodes down the line.
Yeah, it reminded me a lot of those inside documentaries they would have on for the first, I want to say,
Yeah.
21 Bond films, I guess. Not even 21. It would have been like 20. But like the ones that were narrated by Patrick McNee, like
Yeah.
it really, because they're going to be a more flattering sort of depiction of how things were done and made, because the studio is not going to out itself as having a disaster or whatever else. They're probably not going to do an episode.
Well, okay,
they're not going to do.
You say that.
I was
you
going to
say that, but yeah,
that's what I was segueing into, because I think, for what it is, it was surprisingly honest. I think then they're not going to do an episode about like the guy who was videotaping people underneath the stalls at Eon's office, but
right. Well, yeah, that's yeah.
But they are like going to talk about or even like the explosion that went off. They're not going to do something about that, but they might. They talked about like Dine of the Day and how they. I think the most interesting part of the episode were the parts with Purvis and Wade and Cary Fukunaga, because I think obviously Barbara and Mikey G are there to promote the film. They're producers. Right. That's their job. Daniel Craig is just doing like a junket interview, which is still interesting to hear. Same with Lea Seydoux and Lashana Lynch and all that, but because I think they've just got really interesting, especially Purvis and Wade, because I think their involvement in the film it's long over now. They wrote it years ago. So just to sort of hear them like talk about their process and how they contextualize it within the wider Bond canon. Actually, just to contradict myself right now, I really liked one part that Michael G. Wilson said, because he's more of a story guy, but when he was sort of talking about like Craig's arc, I guess, as a character, where he like goes from being betrayed to like losing M to like all these sort of plotting out how the character's progression has kind of been, whether deliberate or not, just kind of evolving over time, and how that's going to tie into No Time to Die. I thought that was really interesting. And
yeah, it was great. Well, especially from him,
right? And it's not something you would get from a 5-minute featurette about how they drove a car really fast through Rome or something like that. Like it's just the medium doesn't allow you to go into that kind of depth. But with the podcast, I mean, you've got several 30-minute long episodes every week. You could. That was the
other thing that impressed me. It was like a solid length.
Yeah.
30 minutes. Like that's
15 minutes. I wouldn't even bothered with it.
No.
Yeah. Okay, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say I agree with you. I think like, they could have taken the easy way out, but they actually wanted to make it worth worth the fans' while. Like they like listen. Here's some like great behind the scenes like insight information, stuff like that. Who knows? Maybe they'll even have longer episodes, especially when they get into talking about like locations and stuff like that. But like around that 30-minute mark, that's a great like solid behind the scenes featurette that would have been on like you said, in like a Blu-ray or a DVD, VHS, all that stuff.
I hope when they release the Blu-ray of No Time to Die, they're included on there in some physical form. I think that'd be kind of cool.
Yeah,
to have them on there.
Well, they might have like a video to go with the audio, and then that'll be what they incorporate on there.
Yeah,
I agree.
Because I mean, they do show that they do play a clip at the very beginning of the trailer, and I was listening to it going, it kind of feels like this is just some video footage that hasn't been translated to the podcast.
Yeah, but, I think you're right there, actually.
Because they play that one like for a good solid 40 seconds where it's just part of the trailer, and then it bridges into the intro. So I don't know, maybe we'll have something coming soon.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, it is just nice to hear like the behind the scenes stories and stuff like that. The other one that I really liked was Lashana Lynch talking about Numi a little bit. And how they meet and how their relationship sort of evolves over time, about her being like really tech savvy and like basically being like, oh no, you're wrong, like just basically how you would deal with like a parent or something like that. It's like, oh well, actually that's not really what we do here, that's not really how things work anymore, and then Bond sort of having to adjust to that.
Mhm.
And the way that she was talking about like women in the workforce, I think that's going to be such an interesting point that the film makes in this
Yeah.
movie, especially with Phoebe Waller-Bridge doing what she did, her involvement in there. You know that it's going to be a very accurate and relevant portrait of what what a woman has to do to get to a position of power in the workplace. I think for sure, and I have to imagine that she's doing things like 10 times harder. She's like on more on her A game than like anyone else around her. She's got a little stubbornness to her, but there's like a reason behind that.
Yeah.
And obviously Bond just sort of has to like relinquish some of his like, I guess, control over the scenario because of just like
Yeah.
she's been in the field longer. So,
And I
well, at
like
least right,
for
yeah,
this case, yeah, and
yeah, for this
well,
case, yeah,
that's kind of what I like about like what she described is that there's this tension between not only like I'm the young agent, you're the old agent, you're
yeah,
analog, I'm digital. Not that like 'cause we did a bit of that in Skyfall as well, but I really loved that she talks about how like the little moment, and she's mentioned this before, but that little moment where she says like, "Oh, I'm like Nomi's the kind of person who would if she didn't know something, go and read about it and act like she knew the whole time." Like kind of that little bit of arrogance where Bond has that little bit of arrogance too, where they're both really stubborn, arrogant people, but coming from
yeah,
completely different angles. And like Bond's probably a little bit annoyed about how much of a bookworm she is, how by the book she is, how and
yeah,
then
yeah,
Nomi's probably a little bit annoyed by how like effortlessly Bond just seems to do things. It's like, what the fuck? I just worked my ass off to do this, and now you just come along and blow the building up
yeah.
and you succeed. Like a little bit of that resentment there, and both of them not being like sort of perfect, like paragons of virtue. Like they're both
Mm-hmm,
got their
mm-hmm.
faults, and they're gonna butt heads over those faults. And I think that's really cool. A really interesting way to go about that dynamic, which I think has been missing from some of the it's Bond, but she's a girl kind of characters in some of the other older
Yeah, I
movies.
think
Like,
the only one that this sort of reminds me of is Camille, and we bring that
right,
up a lot when we're talking about this sort of platonic relationship. But like Camille was like the only one in recent memory or really one of the few Bond women throughout the franchise who really like put him in his place, I guess. Like
yeah,
she kind of just viewed him as an asset to get what she wanted. I mean, granted, he did teach her how to like use a weapon and whatnot, but like I don't know. There are just like elements of her that I think sort of ring true throughout this sort of relationship. But this is going to go in like
yeah.
more of like a workplace relationship than I guess they were.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it reminds me of like it's like an anti-Jinx. If if
Yeah.
Jinx was kind of there, like the audio, like the writers sort of inserting like a like early 2000s, late 90s kind of like girl boss kind of character where she comes along and she does everything that Bond does, but she does it sexier and easier, and like she's like slick and cool, and he's a blunt instrument. Because you get a bit of that in Die Another Day, where it's like
Oh
Bond does
yeah.
everything the difficult way, and she does things more elegantly. But then, at the end of the day, Bond still has to save her, you know.
Yeah.
But because he's the man and whatever, like that.
Yeah. Right.
Where
Yeah.
we were with like feminism in 1999, like when they were
Yeah.
probably conceptualizing this story. Um, it did. I think this is more of like a less, I don't want to say condescending or patronizing version of that trope, but I think it will be. Like, I think this is going to be more honest. It's Nomi, she's there. They have differences of approaches. She has different obstacles than Mon does in the workplace, just by virtue of the fact that she is a woman.
Well,
Um,
and I wonder if they're also going to play into the fact that she's not only a woman but she's a person of color, right? So
yeah,
that's like another
absolutely.
added layer of difficulty there.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that will, and having that affect her personality, at least the way she interacts with Bond, I think will be very interesting. Um, yeah, it doesn't just feel like, she's the girl character, and because it's, post 2000, we have to be like, she's the best. I think she's going to be awesome and kick ass and be a really interesting character at the same time
Yeah.
who struggles with things and has her own obstacles that contrast with Bond's in interesting ways. It just seems like a way more nuanced version of that kind of character, because we've gotten a million, that she's the girl Bond, but this feels like genuinely like this is girl Bond, warts and all, and she's not just there to be arm candy. She's got a job, and she kind of resents the fact that Bond is interfering, I guess.
Yeah,
So,
no, well, exactly the same way that Bond would resent the fact if someone came in and started interfering with him. Yeah, I think they're a lot more similar than they realize, but they do still have their distinct differences that make them who they are. But I agree with you. I think that's what I'm most interested about their dynamic, is just sort of exploring both of their similarities and differences, and then like seeing a very accurate portrait of a woman in the workplace and having to interact with like someone like James Bond, who I can't imagine is the easiest individual to. Yeah, right. A dinosaur. Yeah, right. A sexist, misogynist dinosaur.
But it also be really cool because not only are they, like, I think not only will their dynamic just be interesting, but I think maybe Bond coming across someone who's equally as stubborn and maybe a little bit jaded as he is might cause him to reflect on how he's dealt with the whole Madeline thing a little bit, like sort of almost like looking in a mirror. You come across someone
honestly,
he resents her for so long, and then he realizes he resents her for the reasons that they are similar. It's like, you're stubborn, and I don't like that about you. Oh wait, I don't like that because I know I'm stubborn, and it's a bit of like causes some self-reflection on Bond's part.
Right.
Maybe he looks at his situation with Madeline and goes, I probably didn't handle this correctly.
Look at that. Look at you with the insight there. I didn't even think about that, but I think that was, yes, I agree. I think that, the interaction, it's not going to be one of those, like, she tells him he's wrong sort of things and, like, venting to him. Like, like the friend element. I think it is going to be an instance where it's just, like, self-realization. Because that, to me, that's more powerful than someone telling you, like...
Exactly. It's not going to be the friggin' scene from Mission Impossible Fallout where Luther berates Ilsa for just being a human being with her own motivations.
I rewatched that recently. It's not a good scene. It's so weird because immediately after that, Ethan kind of pops in and like
contradicts everything.
Yeah, they contradicts everything, and so it's just like, well, Luther, what the hell are you doing, man? You're an asshole.
You're a dick. Yeah, it's like Ilsa has a price in her head, and it's like, I want you to take one for the team for this one because Ethan's going through some stuff right now. I know MI6 is going to slaughter you, but I think Ethan would prefer it if you just didn't go, didn't do anything.
Right. He's a good man. Please let him do. He doesn't need the distraction of you being there.
Throw yourself under the bus just this once. But me, Luther, I'm not going to do anything. I'm just going to go along like always.
Yeah, what the hell have you done, Luther? You jackass! He does. Listen, I love. Oh God, why am I blanking on his name? The actor. Why am I blanking on his name?
Oh shit, me too.
Yeah, wow. I'm real. Oh, Ving Rhames. Ving Rhames.
That's it, yeah.
Yeah, I love him, and I love Luther in a lot of the Mission Impossible films. I don't know if I like Luther that much anymore.
That scene really bugged me. Yeah, no,
it does.
It was like the rest of the movie handles its female characters so well, because I think Ilsa is the best thing to happen to that franchise, and I really like the way they we were talking about Mission Impossible now, but
what is this? We've kind of flown off the rails here.
I like the way they handle the whole relationship with his boring wife. I think that makes actually her more interesting in retrospect. She's more interesting in Fallout than she was in the previous, I guess, 3.
I guess that's true.
I really, really liked the way they handled that. I thought that was a really mature way for them to break up and whatever else. But that one scene, it's like, Ilsa, you are an independent, fully developed, interesting character. But for this one scene, we're just going to pretend you're a prop. Like, you're a prop in Ethan Hunt's story. And
that's what we're going to do. And just like that, we've become the substitute podcast for Light the Fuse. So take that as well. Anyways, okay, before we close this out, any final thoughts on the first podcast episode for No Time to Die?
Loved the insight, loved the honesty. Really looking forward to the next one, because it sort of seems like they're gonna the little clip they showed at the end, or they played at the end, where you sort of hear I think it's either Purvis or Wade he says, like, he's talking about how you don't really worry about the practicality of the things you're writing. You just sort of write whatever you want, and then you let the stunt people figure out how to do it.
Right.
That sounds like exactly the kind of insight I want to hear. I want to know, like, how do you go about writing these things? It just sounds like one of the more in-depth featurettes we've gotten, at least in this era. Really, really excited for that. And then the music, keep giving me some little.
Just give us new music. Give us new Hans music. There was also, we didn't talk about it, but there was also that little. It was a very guitar-driven riff that they played throughout that I assume kind of is going to It's going to.
They played
be the musical. Yeah. It's going to be like the musical motif of like Cuba and Jamaica and stuff like that, which I'm like, okay, I like this. I like Hans going crazy with the guitar. I mean, you got Johnny Marr, like fucking go for it, dude. Like that's
I love that.
That's the way I see it.
Exactly. It sort of seems like he wrote the music and then sat down with him and said, can you add to my track? Like
in his German accent.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, it's like, what can you add to my? I can't even do it. It's so bad. I just sound like a.
He doesn't. Really, I don't even know how he's kind of just. He sounds a lot like Christoph Waltz, honestly.
Yeah, he does. You listen to it. Yeah. Oh no! Oh, it's great. I think one of the interesting things is like when he was talking about Lion King, he's like, well, like Pharrell comes in and he's like, oh, the very happy good, with a good cop, and then I come in and I'm the German, and I was like, okay, that's good. Oh man. But anyways, guys, that's gonna do it for this episode of Bond Chats. Be sure to let us know your thoughts and opinions on any of the topics we discussed down in the comment section below. Any of your thoughts, theories, and all this stuff. We'll read them. We'll try and interact with you and have a great discussion down there. Thank you, Mr. Brody, for joining me on this. Where can everyone find you?
You can find me at Brody Saravelli, which I think is probably going to be down there somewhere at some point.
Oh, whoops. I forgot to pull up. I just had the FilmSpeak one up the whole time because I was cutting back to the trailer and I forgot. Yeah, there it is.
Yeah, no. So there's, I'm going to try and line this up. There's my personal
There
handle,
it is.
And then there's Twain Pod, which I haven't been on in a hot minute, but I guess
Are you going to even bring it back? Is it coming back?
I think it will come back because I think, first of all, now that there's these episodes to talk about, I'm interested to see what other Bond people are saying about it because that doesn't really come across my feed very much otherwise, like my personal Twitter. So I'm just keen for that. And then also, if we're going to get back into these episodes, got to make those promotions, baby.
Come on. Promote this episode, please. We're also working on new podcast art, so you need to do this. You're paying good money for this.
It's going to be an endeavor. It's like, we will see. I actually have to take my photo for the pose for that sometime today.
Please do.
I'm going to do the No Time to Die one where he's like sort of, I thought that was a really cool. I keep
do it. That's a good. Everyone is. This is going off the rails, but like everyone is saying, like, why does it look like he's like just trying to like cover up a fart? Like it looks like he like farted. And it's like someone caught him in the act of something that he shouldn't be doing.
Oh God, it's so good. He's a spy. That's what he does. He farts and then he leaves.
Who would have thought a spy doing a spy pose in this? I don't know. Please do that. That would be funny. That would be good. But yes, you have that to look forward to, so definitely give those accounts a follow. And if you haven't done so already, be sure to like this video, share with your other Bond-loving friends, and subscribe to the FilmSpeak channel so you don't miss another Bond Chats episode and the rest of our film-centric content that we have going on over here. Movie reviews, interviews, all that great stuff. We'd like to have you be a part of the conversation going on over on FilmSpeak, so definitely hit that subscribe button. Also, be sure to like FilmSpeak on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, just search FilmSpeak. And if you like me specifically and you like what I have to say, you can give me a follow on Twitter. Let's see if I can line it up. Whoop, boop. There you go. At Griff Schiller. All right, guys, that's going to do it for this edition of Bond Chats, and we will chat with you next time. Take care.